Hello there, thank you for joining me, and as the title suggests, how do we super tune our XP Deus 1? When I say super tune, it's getting the best out of it for any given site. For example, I'm on a Roman site today, so I want to tweak this machine to find small Roman coins, but you might need different adjustments on a deep pasture site, for example. I'm just going to go through my process of when I get onto a new field. How do I make this Deus start to rock and roll? The factory preset programs do a really good job, but we're going to use those as a baseline. So as you can see there, I'm starting off with the hot program as my baseline. Now the hot program is a good all-rounder. It uses an open discrimination and everything's pretty much there, but we just want to think out of the box a little bit here and just tweak this hot program. So let's go through these settings. Let's start off with discrimination minus 6.4. Now that's a really open discrimination, and that's designed to get, well, the best out of any piece of ground, because it gives you the feedback. It gives you lots of feedback about the ground, the iron, and of course the good targets. I'm just going to roll past that. Sensitivity 90. Very often you can push that up to 95, and you can just hear the machine just grumbling a little bit. Perhaps it's a little bit too high. We've got a little bit of EMI coming in from Paul's machine there, but that's not a problem. The standard frequency is 14.4 because I'm after those little Roman coins, and I'm using the HF coil. I'm going to go to the 31 kilohertz. That's going to give me the best chance of finding those small Roman coins. Drop down iron volume 0. There's no need to adjust the iron volume because we're using the full tones. It's got its own iron volume. Reactivity 3. Audio response 3. Notch off. Disc back to minus 6.4. So that's the basic settings. How do we tweak this hot program? Well, as you saw there, sensitivity, I went up to 95. I pretty much do that all the time. But there's another sensitivity setting on this machine, and we'll talk about that a little later on in the video. Discrimination minus 6.4. Yeah, that's great, but I already know there's iron here, so do I really need to be listening to all that iron? So I'm going to just turn that up to about +2, just to shave a little bit of those buzzes off, just to settle it down a little bit. If you're using an open discrimination minus 6.4, that's fantastic for finding the iron patch, but when your field's full of iron, you don't really need it. So just raise it up to +2. You can even go to +5 if you wanted to. Reactivity 3 is a pretty good setting for a Roman site. I might lower it down to 2.5. I might raise it up to 4, but we're going to find out more about this when we actually get sweeping. Let's have a little wiggle around and feed in these parameters and see what differences they make. Let's have a little look at that reactivity, see if we can go a bit lower. I very much doubt it, but it's worth a try. Reactivity is 3. Let's go down to 2.5. Doesn't appear to have made a great deal of difference. Now this reactivity is going to work in harmony with another setting I'm going to talk about in a little while. Reactivity 2. No, it's all over the place. We're not going to go for that one. Right, now, can you hear we're getting these false sort of yearns every now and then? It's not too bad, but I certainly think it's a little bit too low. 2.5 is probably going to give us a nicer experience. I don't think that's too bad, you know. 2.5 is pretty good. If we get in amongst some heavy iron, we can certainly raise it up one, can't we? Misshaped iron, look at that. I don't like the sound of that, you know. It's all over the place. And this is one of the few occasions I really rely on the XY screen for the misshaped iron. I very rarely rely on it for the numbers, or well, any screen if it comes to that, on any detector. Sometimes the numbers can be as reliable as a Chinese fortune cookie. But use it as a tool. Misshaped iron, yeah, but just normally you can hear it. It's not quite right. Do you know what, this is I think I've made a wrong decision on the reactivity, you know. I think the reactivity is too low. I'm going to go up to 3. I think that's going to be the best setting. It's going to settle the machine down and get us in between those iron targets. Have a listen to this. This is where your field is relatively contaminated with iron and it turns into what I call machine gun iron. And this is what the Deus and the full tones was made for. Let's go. Let's just walk through this iron patch and I'll let you hear how the machine just changes. We're using reactivity free still. And there it is, right in the middle of it, look. Nope. Nope. Just at one angle. I'm going to mark that with this stick and I'll come back to that. Back to the iron. Listen to that, machine gun iron. And we're coming off that patch now. Now when you find iron like this, it's always a good sign. It's always worth spending a little bit of time on that, perhaps raising the reactivity up a little bit just to snag those difficult targets. And it's also worth digging a couple of bits of iron just to make sure they are ancient pieces of iron rather than pieces of old tractor. Don't laugh, my friend, this could be a Roman dagger, Roman sword, or just a piece of old crap. It looks like a Roman sword, Paul. Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant, well done.
Thanks, mate.
You don't get many of them.
You don't. I'm pleased with that. A beautiful signal with a perfect XY. Have a listen. Shots fired, man down, medic. It's gone back in the hole, look. Perfect. Tiny little Roman coin. Hey. A little time back I mentioned that the Deus one had an extra sensitivity setting. Now this is a really important feature and you need to use it with caution. Now that feature is the audio response and it's an audio sensitivity. If you have it too high, you amplify those tiny little spits and pops from the ground and it drives you mad. Have it too low and the machine appears to be a little bit dull and quiet. You don't actually lose any depth by lowering the audio response, but you do lower the signal intensity. So We want to bring this field to life. We want it to be a little bit more punchy. So let's have a little mess around with the audio response. Audio response 3. Not too bad. So let's go out of the box a little bit. Let's go right up to 7. All these little spits and pops have now entered into our world. As you can hear there, that's far too aggressive. So let's go down to audio response 5. It's tamed it a little bit, hasn't it? By raising the audio response, you're raising every signal that comes through those headphones, including the iron. So I think audio response 5 is a pretty good setting for this. Well, it's just found us a target, look. Straight line, but we've got iron all around it there, look. But I think from that angle, it's telling me it's definitely worth a dig. Kicked it back in a hole as usual. Let's have a look at this one. And there it is. Here's another Roman coin. Flipping marvellous. Well, that's the audio response. So already we've learned how to get this DS1 rocking and rolling. That's a nice coin, that is. One thing we haven't touched on is tones. Does changing tones change the machine's performance? Well, personally, I think it does. I tend to work on the theory that if there's a lot of iron, I use full tones. If there's not a lot of iron, I use 2 tones. Now, okay, that's personal preference, I guess, but in my mind of minds, I think 2 tones works well on its own, on a quiet field when you want maximum depth. And like I say, full tones if there's lots of iron. So I tend to stick to those rules. That is a handsome signal. Coming at 81. And there it is. It's not lead, it's a coin. Hey! Looks like quite a good one. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Lovely coin, thanks for watching. See you on the next video where we're going to be tweaking the XP Deus 2. See you soon, bye for now.